I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. Welcome to Your Black World. And I got to London and I turned on the news and I was greeted with a tragedy of just epic proportions. Vester Flanagan, a former reporter down in Virginia, was accused of murdering two of his coworkers on the job. And Vester eventually died when he was being chased by police, and it's just kind of a mess. What's really been made this interesting is that I know that when I saw his face, like a lot of people, I wondered if any of it was racial, and it turns out some of it might have been. To kind of dig into this, I wanted to talk to my very good friend Miss Yvette Carnell from BreakingBrown.com. How you doing today, Yvette?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing really well, really well. Now, what did you think about this crazy situation?
When I saw it this morning, I didn't even know. The only thing I knew was this shocking headline of these two people who had been basically shot on camera. You had the one woman reporter in front of the camera, and you can see the guy take out the gun and just he videotaped it, and you can see her getting blasted, and you hear the shots, and you know that the cameraman, he passed away as well. But I didn't know at the time that there was some sort of racial motivation behind that until we got the news that he had actually released a sort of manifesto. And the first thing that popped into my mind was the Dorner scenario. You remember Chris Dorner, who also left the manifesto, who also went on a rampage. So that was the first thing that popped into my head.
Mm. Well, one thing that's I'm looking at the site Mike.com, MIC.com, and just so people know, the two victims of this crime were Allison Parker and Adam Ward, who were very young, 24 and
Yeah.
27 years old, respectively. And when I'm looking, when I'm looking at this, I mean, I literally couldn't believe what I was reading, to the point where I sent it to you and I said, let's just double check to make sure that this is not a spoof site or somebody just trying to create inflammatory falsehoods. And but there were several publications that confirmed that there was a significant racial motivation behind the shooting. One thing that is being quoted here on Mike.com is that Flanagan wrote, with Vester Flanagan the third. That's his actual name, and then his stage name was Bryce Williams, and he allegedly wrote, "Why did I do it? I put down a deposit for a gun on June 19th. The church shooting in Charleston happened on June 17th. He said that as a gay black man, he had suffered discrimination from others. What sent me over the top was the church shooting, and my hollow point bullets have the victim's initials on them." Um, what goes through your mind when you hear about something like this?
Let's just say that I don't think that's been authenticated yet, but it's being reported by a large. It's being reported, and you also have a series of tweets attributed to him where he mentions an EEOC claim, and he mentions someone accused him. Somebody went to HR on him after working with him one time, and that the woman, the reporter, in the tweet that was attributed to him, basically he said that the reporter had used a racial term or a racial slur. I don't know what it was, but in regards to him. So what I think about and this is where I juxtapose the Dorner situation. Dorner has had this. He says a lot of the same things. I've worked within the LA Police Department. I've dealt with a lot of this stuff, and I see how these people treat not only me in the workspace, but I see how they've treated other black people, and I can't take it anymore. And so you begin to wonder, like, have you know if this is true, you wonder, have black people, or a lot of black people, or some black people, enough black people to make the news, have these people sort of reached breaking points? You know what I mean? Have these people, because the thing that struck me about Dorner, and that kind of strikes me about this guy, based on what I know right now, I don't know a whole lot, but based on what I know right now, these look like two guys who tried to play the game, right? Who tried to, live the life the American way, climb the ladder the American way, and got, according to them, got a bad hand dealt. And I think when you live life like that, like you think, when you buy into the American dream, if I do the right thing, I'm gonna get there. All I gotta do is just like keep my head down and work hard, and these people will treat me with fairness. When you kind of buy into that, it just kind of makes you wonder, like, does your world come crashing down when you realize that that's not true? And you are treated like, other black people get treated, just being smart and being the best or being good may not be the key to, freedom in this country. You begin to wonder about that. And that's what I thought when I watched it.
Mm-hmm. I saw the same thing. I really saw a guy who looked like he was working really hard to fit in. I mean, there are very few professions that really push you as a black man to to present yourself on some sort of very neutral, straight and narrow, wannabe white kind of path. More so than being a news anchor. If you look at like Lester Holt, for example, I look at that brother and I think I can't imagine what that brother must be like when he lets his hair down. You know what I mean?
Uh huh.
Because you have to be the news anchors automatically have to be very straight laced people. But to be a black male news anchor, you have to speak a certain way, you have to look a certain way, and there are things that you might naturally do as a black man that just may make your white audience nervous. So if you're trying to climb that ladder, you literally end up killing off a part of who you are in order to fit into this norm. And that's in addition to all the years you spent in school and studying journalism and all that. And what I really see sometimes is you see people that for many years they might be the ones who would come to me and you and argue with me and you and say, you guys keep racism alive because you talk about racism. My friends Patty and Joe and Billy, they're white and they love me, and a black person can have all the opportunities they want if they just work hard enough and do the right things, and those people will come and argue with us all day, and then what happens is the hammer hits them, right? That's what I saw with Dorner. I saw a guy who, as you mentioned, had played the game his whole life and probably felt that he'd integrated successfully, and when he found out racism was real, that all of us, unfortunately, still continue to be niggas, even though we think we've earned our way out of that status. They just snap. They're not ready for it. Because they sort of grew up under an illusion that America is fair, that America will love you no matter what your race is. But if you look even as high as the White House, President Obama went to Harvard and did all the right things, and even he's treated in a certain way that is disparaging to who he is as a human being. So again, obviously this does not justify what this man did, but I really think that dealing with racism in America, it's become a matter of national security. Now you don't. Before, maybe black folks would get frustrated and they would drink a lot, beat their wives, and commit suicide. Now you got guys that are like, well, okay, Dylan Roof got a gun, I'm gonna get a gun too. And you just never know where that's going to go, because I do believe that this man did experience the racism that he states. I think that's what drove him over the edge. I'm not saying he should have done it, and I know I wouldn't have done it, but when we were at the Black Wealth Boot Camp and I did a survey and I said, how many of you have experienced racism on the job? I asked that question. I think 97% of the respondents said they've experienced racism on the job. When you've got that many black people going through an experience where they see what this guy did and they say, I can actually relate to what happened to him, that's a problem. You need to fix that.
Well, no, I definitely agree with that. I think, and everything runs in cycles, right? You've had these cycles of blacks, it's defending ourselves, during many times in history. We always, took up arms, during, 1919, 1918, we took up arms to defend ourselves. Now this is kind of different though, right? You have this new era of black people lashing out at people who they feel have, thwarted their lives and prevented them from living the American dream. That's sort of different. And I think you mentioned the way you have to be an anchor. And it's not just that you have to, be clean cut to be an anchor. It's not just that. You have to have a certain aesthetic appeal to be an anchor. And this guy, I think maybe, and I can't speak for him, we're all just speculating, but maybe he felt, I'm a fair skinned guy. I played the game, and I even changed my name. My name is Vesta or whatever is, Vesta Flanagan, and I've changed my name to the whitest possible name is I'm Bryce Williams now, and I have done all these things. You can't be too big if you're a black anchor. You can't use a lot of bass in your voice. You can't, they like for you to have a sort of angular face. There are so many things that you have to do to even get there. And then when you feel like maybe you got there and it's still not enough, you feel like it's still not, it only takes one white person to lodge a complaint against me, and I'm here again, I'm knocked off again. And so I think that's what a lot of black people are dealing with.
Well, did you notice how close the name Bryce Williams is to Brian Williams, who for many years was the epitome of success
Yeah.
among news anchors? I mean, again, to me that's meaningful in the sense that I think it signifies the degree to which this brother might have gone to assimilate himself. And if that wasn't his story, we know other people who have that story, right? Who just literally will just look at that white man and say, how much can I emulate you and be like you so that you will love me despite the fact that I'm black, right? So unfortunately, we live in a country where so many of us are taught to believe that the best thing you can ever do as a black person is to get rid of the baggage that comes with being black and to assimilate as much as possible. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's a coincidence that his name was Bryce Williams, which is very close to Brian Williams. What do you think? Am I crazy?
No, I don't think so at all. And let me tell you, and I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but me and Flack are friends. But
you ain't scared of flack.
No, I'm not scared of flack. But let me just put it out there. So many of the people who we respect as African Americans have told us that all you have to do is work hard. I mean, Booker T. Washington told black people to cast down their buckets, and work hard and kind of prove your worth to white people. It was Booker T. Washington who said that black people were savages until we basically came in contact with white people. So we've had this notion in our head that and what ended up happening, Booker T. Washington said this, and what ended up happening was that black people did work. We did work on farms and do our stuff, and we were ran off the farms half time, and our land was stolen and stuff that we'll never get back. So I think we have to sort of abandon this notion that, that we're going to be okay. So as long as we just work hard, that everything's going to work out right. That doesn't mean you can't have a good life. But what that means is that this idea that race or racism want rear up its ugly head at you and sort of take part of what you're owed, is a problem. Let's be honest, there was a poll not too long ago, or it may have been a while ago, to show a study that white people, 80% of white people don't have black friends. So you have to see that a lot of what they believe about black people isn't even coming from black people. It's coming from movies about black people or the news about black people or whatever, which sort of instills this sort of racism and this sort of looking at us as caricatures. But the only way to fix that is through policy. Is not, that's how you deal with it. But nobody's dealing with that. So we say, well, let's fix the hearts and minds. Well, nothing ever changes by fixing hearts and minds. And I think that's what we're running into head on. And we're running into headlong is that we've kind of been wrong about some stuff. We've kind of bought into that stuff too. Is that if we just do the right thing, things change and people will eventually come around. I think what we're seeing is that that's not always the case. That is the case with some white people. We definitely have, we have white people who voted for Barack Obama for all the right reasons, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Well, I agree with you 100%, and I think that part of our role with Your Black World as an independent black news media outlet, and I wanted us designed to be independent for a reason, so that we could say what needs to be said and not put those constraints on our anchors and people who speak on behalf of our community. But part of the reason I think our independence is very important is because I want the whole story to be out on this brother. I'm not in any way going to ever condone any kind of violence against people who are not violent toward you. I can't sign off on that. It just I know it happens, but I can say honestly that is an artifact of sort of letting a problem fester and not addressing it. For example, I'm in London right now, and I was reading about a woman about, I want to say 800 years ago, 900 years ago, when the Romans first came to London and they oppressed the British people. And there was a woman who, where the Roman soldiers came in, they murdered her husband, raped her daughters, and then beat and raped her. So she became so radicalized that she led an army. They went into a Roman village and killed hundreds of people, men, women, children, everybody. Didn't even care. And what I saw in this story was this was a person who had been just so hurt, so destroyed by the oppression that she literally, how can I say this? It literally morphed her into something that she never would have become otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So and the thing is, now to this day, actually, she's actually immortalized. I have to look up her name, but she's immortalized in England. They actually have a statue of her on the Thames River, right? Which is an interesting type of irony in the sense that she's considered to be the first British nationalist. I should have her name in front of me, and I'll look it up for people if they want to have it, or you can put it in the comments. But my point on that is to say that if you don't address something like racism or various forms of oppression, sexism, nasty forms of homophobia, etc., you are going to have people that just can't take it anymore, who will go to war with you. And so while I won't condone what this guy did, I can say that there are millions of black people where he could literally, let's say he didn't do this, let's say he put the gun away and just sat down with a bunch of black folks and said, "Let me tell you what they did to me on my job," and he was around a group of black people. I guarantee you, the majority of those people will say, "Oh yeah, well let me tell you what they did to me. Oh, they did the same thing to me, right?" You know what I mean? Like it's a common experience,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that his story still deserves to be told, and we can't sort of let what happened to him be lost in the fact that he handled it in a very unfortunate, unpleasant kind of way. I'll read a couple tweets that he put up, and then you can comment on that event. Then I'll let you go. We're going to keep coming back on this because I think there's going to be a lot to talk about this week, and I think it's a very serious topic to discuss. And again, my condolences to the victims of this. I mean, I just my heart goes out to them as well for sure. But here's some things that he wrote. Let's see. He said, "I filmed the shooting. See Facebook." And then he wrote, "Adam went to HR on me after working with me one time." And he has 3 exclamation points. So he's literally tweeting, assuming this is his Twitter account. It says Bryce Williams. He says that apparently the cameraman went to HR on him. He says after working with him one time. And then he writes, EEOC report filed. So this was literally a minute after. So the tweets are coming a minute at a time. And then he says Allison made racist comments. So Allison was the other victim of the crime. So I'll let you get the last word, Yvette. What are you kind of seeing here, and how do you think this is going to shape up? In terms of just increased racial tension in America.
It's really hard to say. But the one thing that I will say is that and my condolences go out to these people too, because you have to understand that they too are sort of victims of this sort of propaganda that comes through every media outlet about black people. You are led to believe that black people, the people in this country who have worked for free and who for this long are lazy. And I saw there was a meme going around not too long ago saying, I don't know if white people are lazy or not, but they did go all the way to Africa to avoid work. And so, but we have this idea that's still in our heads that, well, black people are all these lazy and shiftless people. Really, truthfully, in America, there are lazy and shiftless people everywhere. Those people do exist, but we have been caricatured. And so I do think about when I think about racist white people, right, and people who not even, people who may not see themselves as racist but still buy into this. I see that they also are sort of, inundated with this sort of media that just paints black people as the worst things imaginable. So I understand that it's not just them. They weren't born that way. Media kind of made them this way, and race is, deployed as a way to kind of, keep people in place and keep white people looking at black people with a jaundiced eye and not caring about us. So I understand that, but I do think that everybody's coming to terms with this in the sense of, it's 2015 and all black people are beginning to realize, regardless of your stature in life, even if you do make it, you understand that you have made it in spite of opposition, not because this is a meritocracy. And I think a lot of black people are really getting tired of the idea that I have to work twice as hard, to get and we realize that that's just not fair, and we're kind of sick of it. And I think the next thing we have to say is, well, what are we going to do about it? This violent lashing out isn't the way to go, and we have to find, as far as I'm concerned, policy prescriptions that deal with this, that help us undo what has been done for so many years. And so I think that's the next way. That's what I would look to in terms of thinking of a way forward.
Absolutely. Because I think that despite the fact that this is obviously a huge personal tragedy, it's reflective of a huge political tragedy as well. You have to have the conversation about gun control. If you're talking about a state like Virginia, which has more than a share of mass shootings, because their gun laws are so lax that people from New York go to Virginia to get guns so they can sell them in New York. And then, second of all, you have that conversation about dealing with racism. If you don't address racism and you keep letting this issue fester, it literally is something that could destabilize our nation. In fact, our country is more divided. According to a recent poll, we're actually more divided today than we were during the Civil War. And you know what happened during the Civil War? I think 600,000 Americans died, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I got the number wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Anybody, if you're watching this. But it's something that all of us should want to address. So RIP to the victims of this crime. And honestly, I consider all 3 of these individuals to be victims of something, because if we'd done things the right way from the beginning, none of this would have occurred. So that's it. So thank you very much, Yvette.
No problem.
Appreciate your time. All right, everybody, and please chime in, tell us what you think. This is Yvette Carnell from BreakingBrown.com. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. We're going to keep following up on this because there's a whole lot to talk about. So until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated.